Good afternoon. There was a 3-minute blip somewhere in the quantum physics of the universe. It went somewhere. So I would just like to start. Oki Nitaniko Astaneki. Hi, I'm Lori NewBreast, and today it's my pleasure to be welcoming you to my, not totally into my home, but for the Native Wellness Power Hour on really wellness dreaming, revisiting your path, or maybe starting a new one, maybe considering no longer really starting to continue what you did pre-P. I guess I could shorten it, pre-pandemic. So one of the things I like about this time is got to learn a lot of different types of technology. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, or I'm going to share with you a little bit about like the space that we're all in, or even how I'm coming to your home right now. And I am sure, I'm hoping people see me. So you will see me. I'm just going to take a pause, but I'm going to keep talking. Today I would like to watch the Indian, I would like to acknowledge Indian Collective for sponsoring the Power Hour. And then I also just wanted to say tomorrow is Jean Tagabon doing traditional storytelling. So I wanted to do that at the beginning so that if I'm in a flow near the end, I may say it again just because I think it's a really good thing. Um, and I'm just going to look at my phone because I did ask for help from Eastern Montana. I said to my friend, "Can you see me?" And she said, "I see you now." So there we go. Yay for friends and technology. And I kind of sometimes think of technology like a giveaway at a powwow, right? When they say, "Oh, visitors, come up and pick up a gift," and all these people run out, and they don't shop. They go and they get what they need, and then when they get back to the stands, everybody looks at it, or they hand it to maybe their mom or their auntie or their grandma, and they look at what they got. So technology is kind of like that right now. You really, it's a wide open world. It's not like the Wild West because nobody wants to repeat that in Indian country, but it really is an opportunity to say, what what do I want to learn, so a tool so then that I can move forward during this time and even plan for the time when the changes come again in the future. So, but I did want to talk about my cool t-shirt, the Native Wellness Power Hour, and it said healing is a verb. And this morning I had a conversation with one of my relatives about sort of how you take all this type of information and reconcile it, repatriate it to a native worldview. So how we see the world through our cultural eyes, through our experiences during this time, and through symbols, which could include writing like English writing or typing, but also through art, through different types of expressions. So when I opened up this T-shirt and I said healing is a verb, I like that. That is really how um, I was taught, but also through life that I've been able to negotiate changes in my life. And since my only really career path is being a good Picani, um, that pretty much leaves what I do on that path open. So I've had a really, I feel a lot of blessings in my life. Some of them I didn't even know that uh, I was enacting, sort of like help from the universe or help from our way, through our cultural way of life, to go to the next place I was supposed to arrive at. And so during this time, and when I was thinking today about what I could share with you at home, the other thing I thought of, I just came from casting my ballot or voting in our tribal election, or our Blackfeet Tribal Council election. And when I walked into the polling place, because we're at a stay-at-home order, our status has changed in terms of our community. And so we adjust. We really adjust, and we had a short period of time to adjust. So I walk in, and all the I was the only voter there. So if you're Blackfeet country and you haven't voted, then you know you got to get down there and do it. But so I walk in, and I was kind of like, oh, Indian Smurfs, because they all had on those blue protective zip up clothing. And I just thought, so I said good morning, and they helped me, and then I completed that. But I marvel at how adaptive it's beyond resilience. How adaptive right now Indian communities are, or Indigenous communities are, and really individual members. Our members that are living off the reservation, if you're watching, they are we use this medium, Facebook or the other social media platforms, we use them to keep up our connections and to give encouragement to each other, to really acknowledge what's going on with people. I love all the adaptation of, because I'm a sewer too, sewing. People doing online raffles of their traditional clothes, their artwork. So we've really, Indigenous people have really spread out in this medium, and they've adapted in a short period of time. I think some of the wonderful things about sharing our traditional dances, now people are like their own cinematographers, right? They go and they scout their location to do their traditional dance for some of the online powwow activities and contests. And to me, that is like that is a fabulous thing. And so how do you intentionally take everything that's coming in? Because that's the other thing, right? It's kind of like, if you want to say it's like one time I was at this woman in wellness conference, and Avon had donated all this free stuff, and it was in this one room. And basically, there was only one door. It was like a contact sport, I'm just saying. But people ran in there, and they didn't have a plan, and so they just grabbed what they could, right? So sometimes that's what social media is like. You get on there, maybe sometimes I get on there in the morning, and if in the first 30 seconds I see things, I get off, because I have to maintain my day. But also this platform enables us to search out resources for our communities, really to stay in contact. So today I want to talk about how you gather during this time. If we want to think about it, like, how do you put together your kit to still cultivate ambition, dreams, goals, and really, what do you do? What are some practical steps, but also ways to think about this time, that so you can manage it, not just in what's coming into your home through social media, but also your thought process, for your self-talk. So as I was preparing for today, I wanted to talk about a couple of things, and specifically, so that you could, so you see the title is Wellness Dreaming. And I had conversations this week with different people where they were talking about the level of vivid dreaming that they were having during this time. And really, dreaming or sleep is part of existing. It's not a less than or greater than, or um, it's not a commodity also. Not like commodity cheese. I mean, like, it's not something where, if you're resting or you're sleeping, it's a less than activity. It's critical. It's critical to rest because that is when we dream. And some people, there's an English phrase, daydreaming, and that's a way of being in your waking moment when you have a thought that all comes together. It comes together with your surroundings, with your knowledge that you're carrying, your life experience, and also what you're feeling, your unspoken or maybe your spoken intention of where you want to go. So as we're going through this period together that we're at the Power Hour, there was a couple other things I wanted to make sure that I say. If you are by yourself, or maybe you're away from your home community, or circumstances have led you to have to, even some people have had to relocate during this time. But wherever you are, that is a place for dreaming. And then we have intentional like practices in all cultures where there was a way where you would begin to go to certain places, and your intention was to, in a dreaming state, receive help. So dreams are incredibly, they're a gift. And sometimes they're like, maybe you're working on a project and you dream about that you lose the folder, or something. Sometimes those are like just a way to help you move forward through an experience. But I would say during this time, really pay attention to what you are dreaming. And a lot of conversations I have, people in my family, the norm I would say is we freely discuss our dreams. That is a way, as much as we're saying what we had for dinner or what we are going to do that day when we're sharing our plans. Because normally, like if I talk to my relatives and with my mom or my sisters or my siblings or my sister-in-law, my family members, that is a normal part of our conversation. So you focus in on what that dialogue is when you're resting, and if you think about it, you are resting under all of creation. So all of creation has that opportunity to come and help you, because that's the other thing, is that you, as a, wherever you are, you know if you need help, you can ask for a help through dreaming. And sometimes, like during this time, there's a lot of really good, I think, sharing with folks about how they've got through challenges before. But the one thing I want to say about right now is, this is well, I can't talk about my past lives, but this life, this is my first pandemic. So in a way, we are all pandemic newlyweds, because through an arranged marriage. That's a joke. No. But so during this time, this medium that a lot of people, have access to the internet, it's a time when we're cross-sharing in safe spaces. And sometimes I just marvel at when I was reading some comments on a national park site, because Glacier National Park, which is part of our traditional homeland, is just borders the reservation. And so I was reading on their site, some comments, and when somebody would say something that was less than positive, it didn't matter if you were an Indian or non-Indian, people would start rebutting it. And I think that is like a collective, there's some type of coalescence of what we're experiencing, where we want to go forward in a positive way. or in a more humane, a more nurturing, a more loving way, not only just between the human family, but with the whole collective universe, the natural world, the four-leggeds. You could see a lot of dialogue starting. Yes, there's pain. Yes, there's injustice. Yes, there's anger. There's all, it's kind of like it's like a casino buffet. You can find any feeling on the internet. But people were collectively on these, particularly because I was concerned about that site and what people would think about our reservation closing down, basically stopping all tourist activity, which is just as a way to keep our people safe. But I read in the comments people trying to guide people back towards that more positive approach to like having a philosophy developed during this time. How do you get through it? So I use different types of language, but my background is, of the many things I've done, I was a youth worker, like from early on. Even when I was a youth, I worked in prevention programs. And so I look at this time that you're getting all those tools you already have to have a vision that is positive, but also is moving forward, even if you don't know the outcome. So we're in kind of, I look at the, if I want to, I like things that rhyme and kind of little catchphrases. So if I look at the pandemic, we are looking at positive, pulsating paths. How do we get through that positive pulsating path process? And really that is what dreaming's a part of that, because often in dreams they were many years ago, because I can say that now, many moons ago. That's one of the things Jean says, many moons ago. So um, I was having a discussion with one of our well-respected cultural knowledge keepers, and he told me, he said, we lived by our dreams. That's how important the resting dream is, or the intentional, where you go out and you're making, you're making a vow, you're asking for help, um, and you go out intentionally. That often the gifts, the teaching gifts, come in the dreams. But there's also then the world we're living in, where maybe you were on a path and your path got interrupted by the time we're in, or it changed. If you think about it like that, it changed. And you're wondering, what am I going to do? Maybe you are now, you entering this period, you were doing something that did fulfill you professionally, maybe something, a skill you were learning, and now you're at home. Now you're in the middle of a pandemic. And I like to say, I was going to go collect some conference memorabilia, because in Indian country, one of the things that since the 1980s, a new way for us to cross-share intertribally is through conferences, through large person celebratory gatherings. That's kind of how I see conferences. I never begrudged people their opportunity to travel, to enjoy a good meal on per diem, good per diem. And because there are some people that are a little stingy with their per diem in the old days, but we would come to conferences, and all that synergy of survival, of resilience, of cultural strength, of still the vibrancy of living as a Native person or an Indigenous person during this time, it would all come together as a conference. And it was like a mad strategic synergy of how are we going to move forward with our people collectively. And in that coming together, we really reunited that spirit, or reignited that spirit of the great trade centers prior to contact. where people came, when they came to those trade centers, they came as who they were. They came with their systems of knowledge. And if they were trading something, a good, a way of doing things, information, they came there as their full selves to be in that interaction. So in a way, that's how I'm experiencing the internet, or this time where we are coming into a new medium with that same intention. Yes, it's stressful, you know, but running 5 miles, there's stress involved in that. And stress is just a state where if you don't build your world around it, then you move through it. And so when I think about how we, even myself, how I'm maintaining my goals and redefining them, I had some goals before the pandemic, and what I am experiencing is this medium was a part of those. But how do I move forward now? And so the daydreaming, if I want to say the waking, planning, daydreaming of right now, is it can be, there can be exercises you can do to recenter, reground. I mean, there's a technique that is used in Native wellness workshops, and so I'll use it during the power hour. You know, the pluses of what's happening that are good, and what you wish would happen. You know, we had a brief, well, it's still going on off the reservation, where people are once again going from their homes a lot. And the message got confused that just because economically you can go out and engage in consumer activities, that did not mean that the pandemic is over. But that in that frenzy, it's kind of like, I don't know, like a Nike rummage sale or something. People go in there, even if there's not, they don't wear size, extra small, they put it in their bag, you know. Um, but in that, how do you now reach a tempo where you can say what you wish would happen going forward? But when they were first out there were a lot of posts where people were able to go and do old activities, or they wished, they weren't crying at the movie theater door, but almost. I think they were crying more for the popcorn, because once they start selling that movie popcorn, people seem to calm down. So, but those old things, that is changed. But how do you let go of it? And I was talking with my sister this morning about one of our teachers that we had. He's a member of the White Earth Nation, Gerald Visner, that we had during college at Cal Berkeley. And he wrote this book. So I want to show how it was written in the 70s, and it was called The Darkness in St. Louis Bear Heart. And the elements in there, like the characters we all lived with before the pandemic, like the government workers who impact Indian country, they were in that book and characters. But there was this one character that his whole journey throughout that book was to maintain his spiritual compass, to understand that people that were worshiping the gasoline way of life, they were, there was an end game. In this book, it was a futuristic book. There was an end game to that way of life. And the main character is going through all these different communities, trying to maintain his spiritual vision of that he accepts that there's a change coming, and it's just, in order to get there, he has to keep his spiritual vision. He has to keep clear. And at the end of the book, he is able to make that change. And that is a very Indian story. Well, it was written by an Indian, an Anishinaabe, and but also it says about this time. like when you're part of groups, or like I'll use my community who I love very much, and my prayer is we all make it. That, and if we do, unfortunately become in contact or in relationship with the virus, that we get the support we need to move through that in a good way. And I see that in the community. I see that spirit of connectedness. But so when you're using this medium, maybe to experience and to stay grounded, that you use that spiritual compass. If there's too many things that are throwing you off course, then you have free will and you have control of the mouse or your finger, your thumbs. And but also, maybe you need to start your own page of Indian dreamers. Maybe you need to start using this medium to do, now you can do the group functions on many different platforms. Maybe you need to start connecting with those people that has nothing to do with earning money. It has a connection of the heart, of a way to move forward by surrounding yourself, even in this medium, with like-hearted people. And that is also one of the practices. Like there was periods in my life when I really needed concrete instructions. Like, what am I going to do? And I needed concrete instructions. And what I did is I used the earth medicines in my experience, as offerings, to make my intention clear that I wanted to live in a good way. I wanted to learn this. I wanted to move forward. And taking those intentional steps is the same thing in this medium. Like today, before I got on, I have, those of you that see me before, this is my pandemic water. It's a mason jar. But I got my water together and I got my place all set. The flowers I picked up with my sister and my mom on the Continental Divide. And my John Peppian blanket, because I set up, and you got my t-shirt, and I smoothed it out last night, so I didn't iron it. But I want you to know I was going to iron this t-shirt because I was going to do the power hour if it needed it, but it didn't need it. So, but I also lit a smudge because I had this morning, I had a lot of things. I was interacting with this. I went and voted. It's been raining now for a couple days here, and it's pretty chill. So I'm sending you cool air from my part of the world if you are currently in a hot place. But this is really, it was an active day before I came on. So I wanted to be present for this power hour. So I use my tools because I really, I think the positive thing, so if we go back to the positive thing and what you wish were happening, there's an interface between those two things. And if you have a wish right now of today, of someplace you would like to go, something you would like to start, then you have a lot of tools. You have yourself, you have that intention. So many times I would make, in the concept of making an offering, or going and talking to creation outside, or to the water, to all the natural elements, is also another way to get help, because they know what they're doing. The plant, the earth medicines, they know what their gifts are and what their abilities are. And the way that we form relationships and get their support and help is through those interface, if you want to say, with offerings. And that's specific to each person. Sometimes it's just verbal. And sometimes people, if they're in different states of their healing at different times, and I've been there, I could not articulate in man language or human language what I needed. I just went out there and asked for help. And one of my teachers that I still, like even now when I think about him, I could hear his voice from, over 25 years ago. I can hear him saying this to me, is that when you need help and you don't know all the gifts of all the natural world, because that's the place we're at now too. We're healing, we're repatriating back to our earth relationship, we're repatriating back to our universe relationship, holding up those, if you want to say, those spiritual treaties that we had prior to contact with all of creation. And so we're at that time where we're relearning the human language, or the way, the names, the songs. And so he would tell me, go out there and make an offering and ask, talk, talk to those earth medicines, because the ones that can help you, they know what they're doing. And really that interface between what was good, but what I wished, what was my dream, is taking that action of asking. Even when you don't have the human language, the intention in your heart, in your spirit, if you want to move forward, that it's recognized. So when I was thinking about that, so there's that. I think that I do that all the time. And behind me with the flowers, see that little red tobacco tie? That was made by a loving family in Fort Peck, and by the children. And that is from tobacco they grew. So that then, so I put that up today to remind myself, but also to, my wish for you is that if there's something you want to do, you dream of doing, you don't know how you're going to get there, that you feel that support, that I support your dreams, whatever they are. And really, um, that is part of, I think, um, I'll speak for myself, for my existence. I want to see other people's dreams come true. You know, I want to see people achieve and to really be happy. And I don't mean they have to run for president, but this is the year if you're thinking about it, or maybe in 4 years. Uh, but just maybe to be the best you are in this given day. And so there's those types of like tools, but there are also practical tools. Um, I got not too long ago a message from one of the folks that I love their community. I mean, I think I've pretty much almost met either everyone's cousin or almost all of them. But that how they were talking about this one exercise that I use for myself also, is it's a question, it's an open-ended question. What do you dream about for your people, from your nation, for other indigenous people? What do you dream about that in 100 years they will take from this time? What is our gift, our paying it forward to the future? What is that dream? And it's individual for everybody. I've worked with young people where, maybe their peer group was, after they finished college, they moved and took other opportunities that are necessary, that are critical to our people. And they were on the conference circuit, got every t-shirt, and get the bag. But they chose to go home. They chose to go to their community, to devote themselves to language. And they were very young, and that was their choice. And when they did that exercise, what they said is, I hope in 100 years, my dream is that people will be speaking and teaching the language as long as we need to reteach it. And it's those types of things also for you, for beyond your lifetime. What is that gift? That, because everybody has gifts, we need everybody in the circle to pay it forward to those generations that are going to come after us. And I was thinking about this time when the pandemic has, and it's kind of like COVID-19. I'm just waiting for the 49 song. I don't know, because there will be love there will be good Indian loving on the internet. So I'm waiting for that COVID-19 49 song. And no pressure. But also, this is in terms of like where you're going to go, and to even today. So one of the core, if the anchors, I could not the anchor's not a good word, I guess, in English. I prefer tether. The tether that gets me through my day is a certain routine right now. I wake up, I do a body check in case I did something crazy the day before and I'm sore, but I have a routine that I craft out time where I do not sit. And most people who do know me, I do rest, I do sit, and I do sleep. They may not think so, but I do. But I have a routine right now, and that's important in moving forward, because there's a lot of things that changed in a quick amount of time. And now for my people and my community and me, we're in another change. So it's like if we look at the wind blew and it changed everything, and it's continuing to gust. And so having that stability or that expected routine in your life, not a program, not a protocol, because rules, too many rules right now in your everyday existence, um, that might lead to a certain rigidity. And right now, you got to be your best Indian flow. You got to be Indian flexible, right? You got to be Indian flexible. And but a routine of an expected, like, if there's so many things coming at you, a routine is a way you stay grounded, so that when the next step appears of what you want to do or a new idea, you are able to make that in a full person way, with your spiritual self also. So I would say that is important during this time, is to have a routine. And, you know, I was going to joke about this, but so I will. Prior to the pandemic, it was normal in my community to see people in their PJs in the store. But this is an observational thing specific to my community. I have not seen anybody, the times I've had to go for essential food gathering in the store, I have not seen anybody wearing their pajamas. So something happened, and that's a pretty good thing. So when I do my pluses and wishes column, or like if so many things are coming at me in terms of my phone bleeping, emails and stuff, I take that time to pause, because that's the other P I think we need in this process, is it's okay to pause. And a lot of people have shared with me that they maybe never in their life took a daytime nap, maybe when they were a baby, but that they feel the need to rest and nap, but there's so much coming at them that is further and further pushed away. But I would say the one wish I would have for everybody is they indulge in that nap time, because there's other types of ways when your body goes to rest that you become, if you want to say, you become the beat, the rhythm of the universe. You become the rhythm more in sync with even like the earth. And so when you give yourself those opportunities, because you have free will, right? You can, it's okay to shut off Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube. You know, if you subscribe to a channel, it's okay to shut them off. Um, and so you need to also have a practice for yourself that works for yourself, where you have rest and you have pause. So those are some things, but I also wanted to talk about an experience I had, because I tend to be a strategic. Uh, I've always been that way, even when I was little, and didn't have much power or control, you know, as a child. But I always had like a vision of how things would go before I do them. And one time, me and one of my friends, we were, before the pandemic, we were going grocery shopping, and we went to this parking lot, and it looked like the Indy 500 with no sponsors. You know, people going all over and stuff. And so I told her, well, I think you, and I wasn't driving, which this is probably, don't do this, but I wasn't driving. So I told her, I think you should park by the cart return. And I said, because when we come out, then we come out to our, we leave our carts there. Like, I was already thinking ahead how we were going to survive the store experience. And one of the things she told me, and she goes, sometimes you think like a man. And I was like, what? No, that's strategic thinking. So in this time, that's also what I think is it will enable us to get through here, is that we all have teachings of how to move about intelligently. Sometimes for our people, we would share with each other about how, if you're going to drive way off, and I've done a lot of car traveling by myself as a single Native woman, and I always had to think ahead. I always had to say, no, I won't stop there. Or I would call people at my destination, and they would say, don't stop at this travel plaza. Don't do this. Don't go through that town. Gas up when you leave here. And it's been my experience prior, right before the pandemic, when I would go to certain communities. Even one time when I was up in North Dakota, they told me, we were leaving the training, and they said, get your supper to go tonight, go back to your room. And these aren't even like my uncles or my mom, or you know, that one bossy relative. It's, they didn't know. But what they told me was, go back to your room, the road is going to start freezing, but get gas tonight, and when you leave here, don't stop until the airport city, which was a couple hours away. And so that was something I would have heard from like my uncle, or that was something I would have heard from my brother, from, you know, from our community. We think ahead, and that's the time we're in. We strategically use our intelligence to move ahead. So I would encourage you to give some time to that, because now, you know, like, look at, I just came from a tribal voting experience where the first thing I thought, oh, they have the Smurfs running the polling place, you know, because we had to change in a couple of days to strategically move forward as a nation. And that is, takes individuals making that connection, that that collective relationship that we have when we come from a tribe or from an Indian community, or many Indian communities. We have on some level a collective knowing and a collective, some people say a collective agreement of how we're going to move forward. But for right now, our strategy in my home community is, we had to do this today. Even though we are in the midst of learning to deal with all the things that come through the COVID-19, And to take that knowing into your individual life. If you are in circumstances working on a dream right now, I've had the privilege to work with through this medium with people that are they're pursuing advanced degrees, and they have no idea how the fall is going to look for them. And there's that moment, if that necessitates you leaving home, then you have people around you that can, just like those people from that North Dakota community helped me, just like my uncles, our ceremonial keepers here have helped me when I needed to go off and live my path and my strengths, use my gifts in the outer world. They gave me advice how I get there. So that's the other thing with this medium is that if you need a support circle and it is not in your house, it is not in your community, maybe it's not even in your group of friends. One of my friends that lives on the other side of the mountains, we decided at the beginning of March, we'd check in with each other a couple times a week because she's managing all her grandchildren, all her children, her own work. And but we agreed that we would, as friends, have that touchstone, those times when we have that conversation. And so you need to strategize. If you currently aren't in a supportive place right now, that you use this medium. It's free, largely. Just pay your bills, electricity, or somebody pay the electric bill, the internet bill, and but that you organize, you use this to send messages to people. I've gotten a lot of messages on social media about just one or two sentences. How do I do this? What do you think about this? Um, I'm using this. Just like little snippets of connection. So if you don't have that right now, or you may have heard of one of my little dogs is snoring off camera, but my house is my safe space during the COVID-19 experience because I have commitments to my family members where I go to their home and they need to be kept safe. They need to be protected during this time from a lot, from the COVID-19. And so therefore, and I need to be protected because I don't know, it'd be my dream, this is my wish, I'm just gonna put it out there, that if something did occur where my 3 res dogs needed a new home, I am praying, wishing, actualizing, dreaming, putting it out there. I'll believe it. Maybe I'll make some Indian fortune cookies and even put it in there. Adopted Red's dog today, but that they would be taken care of. So it comes down to how you get support during this time. And that's how this medium can be used. And then right now, I just want to, before we conclude this hour, I want to acknowledge that there's been so much innovation. It's people have started YouTube channels. People right now, there's a whole group of youth that through the Native Wellness Institute is doing their youth camp, which used to take place in a very beautiful part of the earth, and they had access to a lot of natural world wonders, and then the community that they would come and build during that time. So what they did is they took that leap of faith, they took that strategic thinking, and they took that dream to move forward by supporting our young people that are in the living generation, but former young people like myself, and they have made it using this medium. So I just want to acknowledge that that's taking place right now. Our young people are figuring out and connecting with other young people, how they move forward in a positive way. And I had a discussion with some folks pursuing advanced degrees, and they really felt they were in all different circumstances, but their dream is to go and become part of the healing community. And it means that they must stay in school. They must move forward in their academic work. And how do you do that? How do you do that during this time? Reframe the way that you're going to move forward. And I had a colleague that she's done amazing work in helping her community. And she's decided during this time to step away from her organizational responsibilities and give herself space, because in a way we've all rode the first wind of COVID-19. I'm not going to call it the first wave because I'm not into the epidemiology thing. That's my hobby, but that's not how my Indian mind's going right now. So we all felt that first wind of the COVID-19, and now we have to live with the second, the third, the whirlwinds that will come with us, and we have to move forward. So part of it is using that strategic thinking to make that move, to gather your supporters, even people that just give you a cheer on your message or a heart. And I love those little emojis and icons. I feel that is very native, because our power, if we look at our lodges, our power symbols, they were symbols. There wasn't an arrow say this is sacred and an arrow pointing down. Those symbols carried power. And so there's opportunity in this to use the strategy of what you got, where you are now, to move forward. And then I wanted to share a joke too, because we need humor. People, we had John Peppian, who's beautiful blanket, and anyway, he put on his Facebook feed that instead of saying, social distance, physical distance, he said, please stay a buffalo length apart from me. And I thought that to me is an indicator that our people, indigenous people, we're going to find a way, because we started making those types of connections. To one of our resiliency strength is not just humor, it's being witty, to having wit. And wit is the integration of laughing and intelligence. So it forms its own circle. So I thought that was a good thing. Stay a buffalo length from me. And for those of you that haven't had privilege to be around buffalo or to see their true size, you could look on the internet. There are that's about the right length. And we like roomy t-shirts or whatever. Some buffalo are larger than 6 feet, but that's okay too. So as we move forward and we're looking at ways that you are going to still realize your dreams, I want to say that there are a lot of tools and a lot of some people journal, some people answer questions, some people use that what I like's happening, what I wish would happen during this time. And then when you have that pause for reflection, whether it's a night sleep, whether it's afternoon nap, some people, they call it meditating. I kind of call it it's kind of like Indian idling. So this is what it might look like. It might look like this. And I've seen a lot of elders, because they were raised in certain circumstances, when they're doing their Indian idling, which is kind of like, the thing the Dalai Lama does and stuff, being mindful, his techniques, they'll do this. And sometimes if their eyes are closed, this is also, they're letting you know they ain't asleep. They have went inside themselves to have that pause to whatever they're experiencing and to wait. They're not inactive. they are actively in a state of where they've chose through the closing of the eyes, maybe the moving of the fingers, or just sitting there. They've chose another way to go through an experience that helps them get to their goal. So as we're coming to the close of this hour, I want to share this short story about, I got this book, and it was like about planning for like your life goals, and it was kind of like it was this really cool book. So they had this one exercise, and it was called the 30-year plan. So I did it in 2000 when I was at a point in my life where if I came back to live in the United States, or if I found a way to continue living in Canada. And I was really at a point of decision. So I said, make a 30-year plan. All the things you'd love to learn, the things you want to do, visions of, how you want to live, um, even like social opportunities and stuff. So I had this multi-category thing, right? So I did it, and it was on a grid. So I did my 30-year plan. And then through circumstances, 2 years later, my father, he passed away from lung cancer, and that experience changed me. It changed me, changed the position in my family. It had a generational change in my extended family. And so I went on living. I just went on doing. Was in grief, but I went on. I went ahead. I got support. I had the opportunity to be a part of, many healing circles in Canada as a part of their community strategies. But I went ahead, and then I was moving a couple of years after, about 5 years after that, and I came across that 30-year plan. So it was only 5 years old. And when I unfurled it and was going through all the things I put down there, I started marking them off. And I had did all of them except for one. So I completed my 30-year plan in 5 years. So I'm sharing that story because I support you dreaming the big dream during this time. Whatever that dream turns out to be, it could even be a feeling. I hear sometimes people make jokes about, I want to work for world peace, or I wish for world peace, I pray for world peace. That's a dream. They're all equal. But it could also be that I want to be more active in my community. I want to, after this week, I want to research starting a community within this medium that we're using right now to start that dream. And I think that's really one of my closing wishes for all of you, is that you start that dream that you have. And if you are on a path where you want to stay, then the people, the support, the teachers, the way to realize your dream, that's my wish for you. And I just want to acknowledge the really privilege that I feel in having this time with you through this medium. And it can be a really wonderful place. And today that was what I was in gratitude for. That here I am, I can come from a beautiful place on earth, and I could know that on the other side of the screen, there are wonderful, fantastic, extraordinary Indigenous people. And that is my wish, that we see the beauty in all of us, no matter where on earth we are living right now. And that I'm excited for us to take these positive experiences and teachings from this time and move forward, so that in 100 years, when somebody watches this, or it's archived, or maybe it's carved in stone, maybe they'll make a statue out of me, hey, I'm available, is that they know that we loved them. We loved and wished for their future. And so today, I want to say, I love all of you. I care for all of you. I want your dreams to come true, and through this pandemic. So I Once again, would like to thank the Indian Collective and remind you to join in with Jean Tagabon and telling traditional stories, because we need that spiritual food of humor and storytelling during this time. And I wish you all a fantastic rest of the day and a good night's sleep and fantastic dreaming. Thank you.